intelligence, my creativity, and my imagination, and my own UN detail who is watching everybody by DARPA and interacting with me at all times, giving me all the real-time information that I need. So, you people, you laughed at me going all the way back to 2020 when I declared this World War III, and that was valid and that was legit. I, as a head of state of my own, so I'm not an American, I'm an international, and I'm a very, very, very important international. Okay, and I'm sovereign. I really do have sovereignty. Let me tell you how it's established. Okay, for those of you who've been studying it and researching it and want to get a maritime lawyer and establish your sovereign citizenship, forget it, you can't. They got you running in a psyop. There's no such thing. The only way you can establish sovereignty is through sacrifice, or by surviving sacrifice of your own flesh and blood, like I did. Okay, and I myself don't know anybody else who has survived it. There's very few people who do. We're talking about operations like, let me give you an example. Like, they have resorts up in the Swiss Alps, and Stanley and them know about it. They've been there. They hunt people. Okay, and that's what they do. They bring people there, and sometimes it's all children. Homeland Security's brings in a busload of CPS kids from CPS and foster care kids, right? Okay. And they get let loose in a big, like, mountain resort property that's that forest and all, wildlife, and I mean, it's and they get like a 2-day head start, and it's not just like kids. Okay, they'll have people come, like couples, like husbands and wives and stuff, who thought they bought a getaway weekend in a resort at the Swiss Alps or something, right? And then they'll get, like, how many ever couples they get there, 8, 12, whatever, how many ever they host, and the people will get there, and they will find out they are the ones that they're actually being trafficked, and they're going to be hunted, and they get like a 2-day head start, and then you get hunted just like your wild game. Okay, now if you survive something like that, or if you survive anything like what I've survived, okay, then you establish your sovereignty. Oh, see, because those are the laws of the occult. That's what it's all based on. Everything is based on the laws of the occult. But the problem is, you're dealing with Satans. That's who these people are. That's who Caucasians, which is not a race, and it's not just white, okay? Like Yaqub, the Nation of Islam, it's like highly, highly secretive, okay? I've been targeted really bad in the past for mentioning Yaqub, but I think now, as the veil is thinning and information is spreading, and things are coming out, probably a whole lot more people now know about Yaqub than they did. Yaqub, who genetically engineered the white devil on the island of Paplos off of Greece. Okay, well, he was a Caucasian, and that's what they are. They're Caucasians, and that's an AB negative species, and that's what they do. They genetically engineer hybrids. Well, according to the Nation of Islam, and it may be true because it may be true for this particular group of people because this is the same thing they're still doing today. Well, he and I think this was probably before humans, and it was before humans. It was before Adam was created. So which are the last species to be created and are the minority, and so Yaqub, the big head scientist. Look up Yaqub, the big head scientist, and if you look up on YouTube, there are documentaries of it. Wanted to engineer the white devil. And so he spent generation after generation lightening the skin and till he had the white devil. And so that's where Nation of Islam gets their white devil theory. And it used to be they had like armed guards at the doors of their temples, and no white people were allowed, but even if you were black and your skin was too light, or if you had your hair pressed, or you had you were trying to be like the white man and Uncle Tom, or if you were yellow, that was a thing they didn't like. They didn't like yellow blacks. Because these are the ones that they said have the white devil in them. And so this is the Caucasian race. Okay, Caucasians came up out of the Caucasus Mountains, where they had been contained behind a barrier because of the murdering beast that they are. Okay, but there's different groups of them over time, and they go back. I mean, these are the Satans, okay, who the church calls Satan. Okay, it's not one figure, it's a species, a Shayateen species, and the chief of them, who was expelled from heaven for his extreme arrogance, is Iblis. And Satan is short, it's slang, and it's kind of cover up for Shayateen, which means the Shayateen species. And these are devils. Well, my friend, he was my paid friend, but I'm really, really so grateful and so thankful that I did have an opportunity to get to know Jeffrey Gifford for the time that that he was my paid friend. And and in Jeffrey Gillard, it's Gillard. I keep calling him Gillard. And in his defense, I really am hoping that it is because he found out what he had been recruited into, and that it was because he really is a decent person, and he really was my friend, even though he was just a paid friend. Okay, and after I had showed him and demonstrated the satellite neurointerfacing, and then I had one text message or phone call from him after that. I can't remember. Then that was it. And I've gone to his house. I left a letter there, and I did see that he did get that letter, and I left a second one, and I don't know if he had got that one. And I was told by Billy and Stan and them that he is one of the people that Ray Steele, CIA, Department of Defense, Macomb County, with KMG Prestige in them and the Cult of Scientology, that Ray Steele was recruited him to try to see if he could do the neuro interfacing with the satellite technology. See, I'm the only person in the world who can do it. It is a natural-born, God-given gift and ability that God gave to me, and I am the brilliant mastermind behind the form of communication and the language of, whether it includes using my own limbs or using other objects, crystals on chains, things like that. So they have been for the last 8 years desperately trying to figure out how to do it and how to do it themselves and practicing on each other, and then they look for people within people's DNA and stuff, and they try to find people of that have magic in their DNA, people like me, people like Jeffrey Gillard. Is it Gillard or Gifford? Okay, I think it's Gillard. And see, Jeffrey is a very, very, very ancient, pure-blooded being. He is. Now, you got all these racist black people walking around talking about, like Ray Steele's wife, Jennifer Steele, CIA operative, CIA Homeland operative and Cult of Scientology, right? Like Ray Steele's wife thinks she's a god or a goddess, a king. They think they're kings and queens and gods and goddesses. Sit your ass down, you hybrid. You Caucasian hybrid. Okay, Jeffrey's not a hybrid. He's the real deal. Pure-blooded, ancient, prime genetic DNA of his bloodline, of his family bloodline, and the being that he is. He's a Satan, and he told me himself he's a Satan. I know that. He's got the long... and I'll tell you who else is like this. Bob Marley. Bob Marley is one of these. And see, the military and the CIA and Cult of Scientology, they use these ancient, pure-blooded, prime DNA beings like myself, except I'm human. I am human of a prophetic bloodline of God's true chosen people. Me and my father and my daughter and my father's brother are the last still living of our prophetic family bloodline. We are the House of David, also known as the House of Imran. Imran is the father of Miriam, who was the mother of Nebi Isa. Is the mother of Nebi Isa. Peace and blessings be upon them all. And so that's why my life is what it is, and that's why I am Global Missing Persons Alert, Interpol Yellow Notice number 21-22733. And so that's what Jeffrey is, but Jeffrey's not a human. He's a jinn species, and he's a pure-blooded, prime genetic DNA of one. Well, he's the same thing that Yaqub, the big head scientist, was, that engineered the white race as the white devil, and then you go into which Rothschild was it? That sent his 5 sons throughout the West to establish the global banking system, the Rothschild central banking system we have today. And that reminds me, I need to correct myself, because on one of these videos that I uploaded, I think it's the one that Jay Cooper CIA, Macomb County Corporate Counsel, Department of Defense, Aerospace, and Department of Homeland Security, and all his pathetic jealousy, envy, and obsession of me, who has disabled my hand. He's the one doing this to my hand. Okay, he bought the kid that I gave birth to back on February 6, 1996, in a CIA arranged adoption contract, and him and his scuzzy wife, his less than a woman wife, Renee, who doesn't have a womb of her own, have been so obsessed and so paranoid and so threatened and jealous and envious of my existence that for the last 25 years, he has followed me around by DARPA technology and has recruited anybody and everybody that's any part of my life. Okay, friends, family, particularly Muslims. Okay, he's obsessed with Muslims, and he was part of that. Okay, when I told you in 2013, when I called the FBI to report those crimes of terrorism, okay, well, that was Jay Cooper. Jay Cooper was part of that. And it was Jay Cooper who was part of Ahmed Nagy Salem, okay, who I was used for immigration fraud for purposes of their CIA contracts, and he was getting a master's at Madonna University, and he did get the master's. He probably went on to get a PhD after I had cut all contact. But anyways, I was, they were only using me for the first 2 years that they needed me. And then after like the first 2 years, they wouldn't need me anymore. And then that's when I was going to be trafficked to the Vatican and sacrificed, and everything that they tried to do in 2018 and they're still trying to do now was going to happen then. And they still don't have the power and the protection to do what they've been trying to do my whole life. Well, I have survived 39 years of jumping out of cars to save my own life, being drugged by cars to save my own life, and having 75% of the flesh ripped off my body. Okay, being the hostage in numerous kidnapping and hostage situations, including on my way to the airport, just minutes away from being put on a plane by some Saudi Arabians, in which I had to jump out of the car and roll into a ditch, and I was way on the other side of the state by then. And I'm a self-made rock star. I've had to jump. had to jump out of a parked U-Haul, butt naked, broad daylight, and run for my life. Okay, because listen to this. In retaliation for Jim Kenny's murder. Okay, Jim Kenny of Hamtramck, Michigan, USA, and this was in the 90s. And I was very, very close with Jim Kenny. He reminded me very much of my father, Roger Del Payton, who I was estranged from. And Jim Kenny was one of those people who I had patch protection under. He was a Freedom Rider, I think it's called. Their clubhouse was on 7 Mile. Between 7 Mile, next to that dairy stand, just that used to be there, if it's not anymore, just west of Shaner, by Fairmont and that. I think that is Freedom Riders. Anyways, little Jimmy took me in under his wing as like a 19-year-old kid, and I guess he was probably like in his early 40s then, and they set him up. Okay, he was found beat to death in his own home, and over $114,000 was taken, and I think at least 1 kilo of cocaine. And they left him beat, like unrecognizably beat. And okay, well, I told you, that's what being a trafficked and outsourced secret spy is. They used me without my knowledge or consent to set Jimmy up for this robbery and murder. And I did not know this at the time, and I was completely off guard when I was kidnapped by Glenn Wooten of Warren, Michigan, USA, Wayne Wooten's brother, okay, in a U-Haul truck. And I had no reason not to get in the truck with Glenn because I knew Glenn. And, I by now, we had all known each other for like years, and me and Wayne Wooten were particularly really close. Like him and Jimmy were together, and like they like both took me like up under their wing, and they were like, they took me around. They took me to different places and introduced me to different people, and they said, if she ever comes in here, treat her like she's my daughter. Anything she wants, give it to her, and let me know. I'll take care of it. And these were like huge forms of support. These were the people I came up under. It's like these are the people who I've learned everything I know today from. That, the old school, the old school that doesn't exist no more because everybody's either too old like me, or they've died off, or they're in prison for the rest of their life or whatever. But there's no there. We are the original of what these retards today in 2025 are trying to be and wish they could be but can't be, and nobody will ever be again. So Wayne, not Wayne, but his brother, Glenn Wooten, and some people listening to this probably know him, kidnapped me, and I believe it was 1994, in a U-Haul truck, took me out to the southwest side of Detroit, to the U-Haul place, and he asked me, he's like, hey, want to ride out to the U-Haul park with me? And I said, yeah, sure. And I got in, and then he got there, and he went way out in the middle of the U-Haul field there, and stopped the truck, and he pulled out a pistol, and he told me to strip, to take all of my clothes off. So I did, and I was like just sitting there like butt naked, and plotting, like I was looking, okay, remember what I told you people about that fraction of a hairline second of a facial expression that you don't even know or realize you had? Okay, well, that's what I was waiting for. This was another one of those numerous situations where I have had to get into the mind of the psychopath, okay, and be ready when I have that like half of a second chance. Soon as I see that facial reaction, then I know it's time to grab this door handle and jump. And that's what I did. And I ran, and I ran a couple streets over in broad daylight, butt naked, and up to some door, and some middle-aged black lady let me come in. She gave me some clothes to put on, and I called KC over at the La Renaissance, and I said, can you send me a cab over here? and pay for it when I get there. And he's the same one that had to pay for the cab when I was kidnapped by the Saudi Arabian. I was kidnapped by the Saudi Arabian. I was me and KC were standing out back. It was on a Friday night behind the La Renaissance on Woodward, and we were actually getting ready to go in for the night, and that it was late, and I ended up kidnapped by that Saudi Arabian, and he doubled up his fist and he punched me in my right eye, and the whole right side of my face instantly started growing, and he had me get on the floor and put my face down on the seat. And he was very paranoid that I was going to get something dirty. And this car was spotless, immaculate, spotless. Like brand new off the dealership lot, spotless, except it wasn't brand new. It was like probably like at the time 10 years old. It was a Toyota or a Honda, and it was at least 10 years old, but it was like spotless. And he was so worried I was going to get something dirty. And we drove, and we drove, and we drove, and we were headed west, and we drove for at least a couple hours, and all I know is we were going to the airport, and I don't know. I don't know that side of the state. I think maybe it's Willow Airport that's out there, Willow Run, or maybe that's in Waterford. Whatever airport is like an hour and a half, 2 hours west of here, that's where we were going. And I knew the only chance I had was based on how the guy was so scared of anything getting dirty. I realized that he doesn't want my DNA in this car. So I pushed my thyroid up against the edge of the seat, and I was pushing it as hard as I could to make myself gag. And he started panicking and freaking out, and I told him, well, what am I going to do? I said, you're going to have to pull over, because there's nothing I can do to stop this. And he pulled into a residential subdivision, and they had ditches in the house. They had bigger yards, and the houses were set kind of back. They didn't have sidewalks, and they had ditches. And it was dark, and he pulled up, and he's like, hurry up. He's like, you better not run. And as soon as I opened that door, I rolled out of the car, down into the ditch. I jumped up the other side of the ditch, and I ran straight to the corner house, sitting right there in the corner, and the light was on, and I could see a family inside. And I beat on the door, and they opened up the door, and I was like, can I use your phone? And so they let me come in, and they're like, do you need the cops? I'm like, no cops. All I need is to use the phone so I can get back to where I'm like, I don't even know where I am. So I called KC at La Renaissance, and I said, I have no idea where I'm at. He's like, well, put the people on the phone. And the people told him where I was at. And so he told them where he was at, and asked them could they call a taxi service in their area. So this is what it means being a trafficked and outsourced international secret spy. Trafficked by the United States State Department. Okay, they use you for these various operations that you don't even have any knowledge of. You know nothing about it, and they use you to set these people up and to get busted. I mean, I used to come out of like gambling joints, dope houses, like the hottest spot you could be, okay? I'm talking places with like military bazookas and machine guns and stuff, and kilos of cocaine and pounds of, of marijuana, and, and I would leave places, and then I would come back an hour later, and the door would be off the hinges, and the place would be ransacked, and nobody would be there, and I would just be like, wow, how do I always get so lucky? And, and then, okay, until one day when this happened, I walked into a place, and there was this big, tall, black guy, and I can't remember his name, and I had no idea anything was even wrong, and he saw me, and he picked me up, and he held me up in the air, and he body slammed me down on the floor, and like 3 of them stomped me. And then when they got done, I guess I was lucky that I crawled out of there alive, and I had somebody outside waiting for me. Now, this was all back in like the 90s. But what it was is because they thought I was a snitch, and and that went around a lot. And I honestly never could understand why. I just haters, jealous. No, I'm not a snitch. And those people who knew me, well, maybe they were snitches, and maybe they knew something I didn't know. I was gonna say, the people who knew me knew. I've always been a very, very authentic person, a true person, a loyal person, and so when Glenn Wooten kidnapped me and took me out there and held me hostage at gunpoint and stripped me naked and was probably going to kill me had I not, like I always do. I'm a master. Okay? The problem is he blinked. Okay? And they all do. So, or else I probably wouldn't be here. But he told me, he said this is for setting up little Jimmy. And that had been the first I had ever heard anybody accuse me or indicate that I somehow had anything to do with what had happened to Jimmy. And, but apparently, that means that it was Bert, it was David, cokehead David, who smoked up all the CIA and Navy's money. Okay, one day he was the man. Okay, rocking up 1/4 ounces of the prettiest Peruvian flake you ever did see at a time. Okay, running up and down Connor and Gratiot with a crossbow, threatening people's lives, and pulling pistols on people out the car window and stuff, smoking up Peru to sleeping on a cement basement floor in somebody's house on Liberal, up between Shaner and Gratiot. Okay, and then he just kind of disappeared, and so that's when they took him, and he had to go through a program and dry out and everything. So but those are the people: Bert and them, CIA, U.S. Navy for the Vatican. Okay, those are the people who do that stuff. And that is what it means, trafficked and outsourced by the United States State Department in violation of a highly classified, highly top secret international spy agreement. So, this is the life that I've gotten to live, and alhamdulillah, I am thankful for it. Okay, that's why I don't watch TV. That's why I don't watch movies. Okay, because I don't sitting here watching one of you idiots, drugged up and cult program Scientologists act out the life that I really live is not entertainment to me. And as far as I am concerned, it is you people and you who do watch it and you who do pay for those things and spend the money on it. Okay, you are the funders and the enablers and the supporters of this life that I have had to live. This has been your fault. Okay, you are the kidnapping, human trafficking, murdering terrorist and or enablers, supporters, and funders. And I have been so extremely exhausted all day to the point of not even being able to function, okay? I mean, I didn't even, actually, comb my hair and change my clothes until just right before it got dark. And the reason why was because all day, I've tried to just go back and recuperate a couple of hours of sleep to make up for all the torture last night that kept me up. But no, it doesn't matter, day or night. And I'm exhausted. And they are fueling my hatred. And I mean, I don't know what this looks like from the outside looking into to you people, whoever you people even are. You people, those the listeners, all the operatives and role players on Facebook, okay, and whatever law enforcement agents and federal rats are, have to sit here and you have to listen to this shit because for no other reason than it's your fucking job and you don't have a fucking choice. I have no idea what this looks like to any of you people. None of you people from the outside looking in. I have no idea. I am left to believe that it can be nothing other than you are just that ignorant and you are just that arrogant that you give me absolutely zero credibility. Okay, and you think it's a fucking joke. You think I'm just talking shit. Okay, well, let me tell you what. Scroll down the Facebook page to 2020. Okay. Now, I'd tell you to go down a whole lot farther, but all that stuff, I had at one point, I believe it was in 2019, I had pretty much scrubbed the whole page, anything that had to do with this. And so, I kind of started with anything that had to do with this, all brand new and fresh in 2020. So that's about as far as that goes. But you can see in 2020, where numerous of you retards are laughing at me. Okay, well, I'm telling you what I'm doing to you. And, and I'm not just some idiot that just fell off the turnip truck yesterday and just, and I'm just spitting shit out my mouth. No, this goes back to September 22nd, 1970. Okay? This goes back 56 years for me. Okay, almost 80 years for my father. Okay, and then there's my grandparent. Okay, no, I am every bit of who I have said I am. And I have done to you people everything I told you I was going to do, going all the way back to 2020 while you people laughed. Okay, you know what? You know why October 7th happened? October 7th, 2023. You know how that happened? It's not Hamas. Hamas didn't do. Okay, that is what a retaliatory false flag event is. It was CIA and Israeli Mossad. Okay, they did that. And those were United States weapons used. They are the ones that kidnapped the people, took the hostages, and did the terrorist attacks on October 7th, 2023. in a false flag event, because that's what they do. They put on the enemy's uniform and they bomb themselves. To do what? To blame their enemy, and then have a valid and legit reason to attack Iran. Okay, and get the rest of the world to attack Iran. In their desperation in the middle of all of this, for those of you who don't know, is I am the one that openly and publicly, before everybody who was included that day, requested Ayatollah Supreme Leader Khamenei and President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and at the time President Rouhani, and I don't know if he's involved in this still or not, or what, but then it went to and then they had the election, and then was President Raisi, okay, the same one they just shot out of the sky, okay, a little over a year ago, okay, that's all part of this, okay, and I am the one that gave Iran, right in front of the State Department's nose, the media's nose, clergymen from all around the world, numerous civilians and regular people from the general public, along with 38 other nations. I'm the one that gave them all this information that of all these war crimes going on right here inside America, about the United States of America being a corporate state of terror that wages war on its own civilian population. It's not even a nation, okay? It's a corporation owned by the Bank of England, and I am the one that gave all the information about the human crucifixions, the child sex sacrifices, the cannibalism. Okay, before P. Diddy happened, and everybody once starts talking about it. Okay. Nobody was talking about satanic occult rituals and sacrifices, unless you were the Department of Defense or the cult of Scientology, running a targeted individuals, or Operation Freakout, like what's her name, Penny Shepherd, or Penny L.A. Shepherd of Shepherd Entertainment, okay, with her SRA, okay, satanic ritual assault bullshit, okay, otherwise, people know they better not even talk about the real satanic occult ritual and sacrifice, because if they do, they will be completely discredited. They're going to discredit themselves by even saying it. Nobody's going to believe that, okay? Well, guess what? I was the one that broke that ice, and the whole world knew it before America knew it. And then this is why all this shit with this P. Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs, and all these other people connected with him in the entertainment industry. See, the FBI and them, they were in a position where they have to do something, because the international community and the international court and the United Nations have been here and have been involved ever since November 2020. Okay, and they would have been here sooner, and the only reason they weren't was because 2 years were wasted while these human trafficking psychological terrorists, okay, of the entertainment industry and for the Vatican, and with this Hillary Clinton Pfizer pharmaceutical operation, okay, they, along with CIA, U.S. Navy for the Vatican, Bert and them, they were pretending like they were Interpol and the international courts, and that's what we were doing, that's who, okay, and they wasted 2 years of my life, before I figured out, no, they're not. They're doing that to keep things isolated and protected, okay, while they corrupt and control it. Because that's what they were dependent on. They were dependent on keeping me completely isolated to this fucking island, this underworld island that the United States of America is. And it's not just me. They depend on all of you Americans who don't care what they do to you. Um, you're isolated, and you think you're not. You think you have all these freedoms. You think you can just pick up a phone and call anybody in the world anywhere. You think as long as you have the money to do it, that you can just buy a plane ticket and go anywhere in the world. Wrong. No, you can't. It's okay. You don't have freedoms. You don't have rights. You have privileges. Okay, and you can do that only as long as they are willing to allow you to do it. And until they are no longer willing to allow you, like myself, I can't buy a plane ticket. I tried to buy 2 of them. I have to out of the country. I have to go to the State Department and I have to ask permission and get a document from them that says it's okay for me to leave the country. Go fuck yourself. How about this? I'll just call the international community and I'll start a bunch of wars and I'll just have somebody bomb their way in and get me out. How do you like that? And that's exactly what I did. So, okay, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse. Now, the truth is, as a society, okay, you're not a nation. I refuse to address you as one, because you're not. But as a society, it can't get no worse for you people. You people who are enjoying every day of your best normal life, like nothing's even wrong, because you don't know or don't believe that it is. Okay, well, you're like any day away from finding out that yes, it is. And there is nothing you can do. You know, it really is too late. Okay? And, so it's real, and you're any day, any week, any month away from finding it out, okay? And things are happening, and they're happening fast, and I'm going to capitalize on every moment of that, okay? I'm going to capitalize and take advantage of, well, insult to injury. You know what insult to injury is, right? Okay, well, insult to injury is what I'm going to have to lay and go through all night long again tonight with no sleep. And then, hopefully, only because I've drank about 5 ounces of pure raw honey today, hopefully that's going to put enough glucose in my body that tomorrow won't be like today, because I don't anticipate getting any sleep. And this Jay Cooper, he's obsessed with my right hand. He's obsessed with disabling it, and it is disabled. And it's not going to stop me from doing anything. Okay, it's just going to make everything that I do, that I'm still going to have to do, all it's going to do is it's going to make it excruciatingly painful as it is now, and it's going to make it extremely difficult as it is now. But it's not going to stop me from getting it done. Nothing stops me. And I promise you, it's well, you know, you see, that's the thing. That's the thing here. You people, you see, war is nothing to you people. So what? Who gives a fuck if, half the world's in war? Because that's over there. It's not here. Okay? Here, life still goes on. Okay? Whether it's you yourselves that are at war or not, it doesn't matter. It only matters to the ones that are there sitting, and they're tucked away nice and safe behind a DARPA supercomputer playing video games anyways. They're not really on the front line, doing what real men do, because they're not. They've all been bitchified and they've all been estrogenized, and that's why soy isn't everything. Okay? Yeah, and that's how you ended up with a society of male Tinkerbells. So, you know, including a whole society of men who aren't gay, but they should be. Okay, so that's how it happened, and you people are just ignorant and you're arrogant, and you don't give me, and you don't give anything I say any kind of credibility, and you're not really even worried about what you do now see happening and going on, because, well, number one, you're not being told the whole thing, and you're being lied to, and this actually started going way back in 2020, and it's been hidden from you under a now 7 or 8 year nationwide State Department media and military gag order. But you people don't give that no credibility. You don't believe it, whatever. So that don't matter. That's irrelevant. So, so hey, and then also at the same time, okay, although you people don't believe it, well, most people don't even know it, okay, because they're keeping this extremely isolated. That's the reason they go to extreme efforts, okay, to violate my free will and violate my personal property and violate my devices, okay, and commit their crimes of cyber terrorism against me to keep me isolated and cut off from the outside world. Just like they run their psychological warfare non-stop to keep me isolated and confused as the victim. And let me tell you what, it just that's just worse than anything, because then I sit and I do this. I do this for hours, day after day after day, for hours. And I walk the streets and I stick my video in every single Homeland contracted and female role player's face. Okay, so you just to prove a point, I will never, just to prove a point being, this is what happens when they try to isolate me and keep me cut off from the outside world. My last 22 text messages over the last probably 4 weeks, probably 4 to 6 weeks, have not gone out, and I have a screenshot of that. Last 22 text messages not sent. I have not been able to. They've been restricting and cutting off my ingoing and outgoing calls and texts for about 4 to 6. Oh, you know when? Ever since I got trafficked over there off of Craigslist to that sodomites in Dearborn, Fayez Hammoud, the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, Abdul Hammoud's cousin, after Fayez got recruited against me. And I said, okay, the Facebook Live that I made over there in the dark, when I was in Dearborn making all these arrangements, and I sat there and I did like an hour video that they got deleted in paranoia. I said right then and there, if anybody does it, if anybody recruits this guy, okay, then I'm gonna have to do to him what I do to everybody, and that's what happened. Except this guy went a step further, and he actually was holding me in that house of his hostage. He was holding my belongings hostage, and I couldn't leave there, and I had not left for days. And when I did try to leave, he told me and it was at night, and he was getting ready to go to sleep, him and his dogs. And he slept on the couch to make sure. He said, I'm going to sleep right here on the couch. He said, if you walk out that door, he said, I am going to deadbolt the door, and I am going to throw all of your stuff away. So, and then I stayed up the whole night, and I thought about this. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, I said, no, I'm in a bad situation. And I can't reach anybody by phone because all of my outgoing calls were being restricted. So I had no choice but to spend what would be hours on a bus going to the people I need to contact, to tell them I'm trafficked over in Dearborn. My stuff is being held hostage. I need you to come get me and my stuff out. And so, it was like before 6 in the morning, like 5:30. Okay, I went, and this was I guess it was supposed to be, I don't remember the guy. He kept changing his days off, and then it turned out that he doesn't have any days off. Every time I was accommodating to his schedule, and that's why I was leaving at night, was because we had, I was supposed to be there in the day. That's the reason why the rent he called it cheap, only $400, is because when he works, I'm supposed to watch the dogs, but we had agreed that that's fine. I'm flexible enough that I can actually flip my schedule in reverse with yours. So, thanks God I own my own time. And then every time I would accommodate his schedule, he would change it. And then, as there's a videotape of that, the guy went absolutely ballistic. He was physically threatening. He's a big guy. He's like 6'3", and he's big and he's thick. He's heavy, and he was towering over me, and he was pointing his finger right in my face. I was telling him back up, and he was screaming. Okay, this was previously a stranger that I had just answered an ad for the room to rent on Craigslist. Okay, and well, boy, he really underestimated me, but he got recruited. See, okay, I guess from what I've been told is CIA, Macomb County Corporate Council, and Wayne County Corporate Council, because his cousin is the mayor. Okay, everybody knows him now. He's all over YouTube. It's just so they're just running wild with stuff. People, I guess this Charlie Kirk thing. Honestly, I mean, it's a psyop when I never ever even heard of this guy Charlie Kirk. Okay, it's somebody who they just somebody who they engineered for the right time, and but he can't be that important because I've never heard of him. Now he's like all over the place. And you want to know something? Okay, when something really does happen, that there's not, and that's not to say real people don't die in false flags. That's not to say terrorist attacks don't actually happen. I mean, real people have to die because it has to be real. I mean, the mind control has to be real. It has to be real to convince people that it's true. And whenever there's a serious investigation about something that's not an engineered false flag of some kind, they don't just speak about the investigation and who's been arrested and, they got it all figured out and then how it happened. And, I mean, it's like it's the same day, it's like all over in every single media source, okay, in the USA. And okay, they know all the details and okay, so but I don't know, you people buy it, you people buy it. That's what it means when I say I take their psychological warfare and I spin it just like the CIA spins the mainstream media to cause mass panic and hysteria on the people to serve my own agenda. That's what that means. While these terrorists, that is you people, and or the ones that fund and enable and support you, okay, sit here and run psychological warfare on me, the victim, with the intent to keep the victim isolated and confused, while you keep me cut off from the outside world, violating my space, violating my property, violating my personal stuff and my God-given rights. But in my devices, while you steal my mail, while you steal my money from my accounts, while you steal my money and my products when I order things, it's going to cost. It's going to cost every one of you. It's going to cost every one of you more than you can afford to pay with tax and interest. And so while you people keep, committing these crimes against me, this is what's going to happen. And I'm going to take your psychological warfare that is often meant for purposes of damage control and or to keep the victim isolated and confused. And I'm going to spin it. I'm going to continue to spin it like the CIA spins the mainstream media to serve my own self-serving purpose. So, and that's what they do. They lie, they tell lies about other people, including themselves and each other, to try to protect and conceal their crimes of kidnapping, trafficking, murder, and terrorism, and to try to protect their own identities and or their own recruited and contracted operatives and spies. So what they'll do is they'll throw their buddy in the seat next to him under the bus to try to protect himself, and what happens is they both end up getting run over by the bus because I'm the one driving it. Okay. See, that's the problem here. I'm the one driving this. Okay, I'm the one driving this runaway bus to hell. Me. And that's the problem. And I'm going to tell you, it really can't get no worse for you people who don't know that yet and or do know it but don't believe it. It can't get no worse for you. So I don't know what to say. This is why I sit and do this, and I am more than fine with sitting and making a fool out of myself every day of my life. Doing this, it's worth it, because the truth is, I'm not the fool here. You people are. You're just too dumb to know that you're dumb, and you're too ignorant and arrogant to learn anything. So I'm going to go lay down and wait for the war games to begin. Wait for, Jay Cooper to start shooting my hand. Maybe I'll turn the Wi-Fi on or the data on, and I'll watch YouTube for about an hour, and then just right about the time that they're just starting to, after they had to get in all over again and through the portals that they left, that I know where they are, but I can't get rid. That's a whole other thing we're not going to go into. But I'm getting new phones, and But anyways, so it'll take them about 20 minutes to get in, and then they're going to have to hop, skip, and jump through a bunch of dummy photos and dummy albums. And I have access to the photos and stuff. Well, that I think that'll get turned down when I watch YouTube. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. No. So well, anyways, then just as they're getting to my personal property, then that's when I'll shut them down, and I'll shut everything off. I got to go through every single app, the whole list of apps, one by one, and I have to turn off all permissions. Okay, and then I have to turn off the data. I have to make sure that they didn't establish another VPN connection for themselves. Okay, I have to make sure they didn't turn my Bluetooth on again. What's the other one they do? Set up a wireless printer connection. These are the ways I get in. So I constantly check these and make sure these are off. And then shut them down. And so then I sit here and I laugh at them like the retards that they are, because I once again wasted their time, money, and resources. And now they gotta sit there like pathetic desperation. Okay, like bitch dogs in fucking heat, waiting hours, like maybe 12 hours or more to see if I'm gonna turn the internet on, right? And then as soon as I turn it on, they gotta jump. They gotta jump like bitches, and they gotta act fast. They gotta move real fast. And that's when I shut them down again. and then they start shooting me. Like Jay Cooper and them start shooting me in my ear. Or they'll start targeting my brain stem in the back of my skull, around the base of my skull there. Because they get pissed because they were probably just right there, finally, right? They're going to be right there at where they want it to be, and boom, shut them down again. So, okay, this is Global Missing Persons Interpol Yellow Notice Number 21-22733.